I want to start by saying something I mean completely. Every time I sit down to do one of these readings and then go to the comments afterward, I'm genuinely moved by what you share there. Not in a performance way, in the way that makes you go quiet for a moment. So, to everyone who has been here for a while and to anyone arriving for the first time today, thank you. I carry what you share into every reading I do. Now, let's see what's here. You know the moment just before a door opens? Not the opening itself, the moment before you can hear someone on the other side. The handle moves just slightly, and there's this split second where the air in the room changes, where something in your chest responds before your mind has caught up, where your whole body registers that something is about to change, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to prepare for it except breathe. That's what I'm sitting inside right now with your reading. Something is on the other side of a door, and it is about to open. Let me just sit here for a second before I start talking, because the first thing that came through when I laid these cards down was so immediate, so clear that I almost didn't trust it, which sounds strange. You'd think clarity would be reassuring, but sometimes something arrives so directly without the usual gradual buildup that you find yourself checking it, looking for the catch, making sure you're not projecting. I've checked it. It's real. There is something coming for you, something specific, something that has your name on it in the most personal sense that you have not allowed yourself to fully believe in. And I don't mean that as a gentle encouragement. I mean it as an observation. You have been carrying a version of hope around this thing that you have kept deliberately small, contained, managed down to a size that feels survivable if it doesn't happen. Because you have been disappointed before, not once, more than once. In this specific area, whatever it is for you, and I think you know exactly what I'm pointing at, you have reached towards something and had your hand come back empty often enough that you learn to reach more carefully, to want more quietly, to keep the hoping in a small, protected place where it can't do too much damage if it turns out to be wrong again. Hold on, something is shifting in how I'm reading this. Let me stay with it. It's not just that something good is coming, it's the particular nature of it, the specific quality of what's approaching, because I'm not feeling the kind of good news that arrives as a relief, the exhale after a long tension, the resolution of something difficult. What I'm feeling is something different, something that arrives as a shock, not a bad shock. The other kind, the kind that stops you mid-sentence, that makes you put a hand over your mouth. That produces tears not because you're sad, but because something you had stopped letting yourself believe in is suddenly, undeniably, actually happening. That kind of shock, I want to try to describe what I'm seeing more precisely, because I think you deserve specifics rather than beautiful language that doesn't land anywhere real. There is a development, something concrete, not a feeling or an impression or a sense that things might be moving in a certain direction, an actual external tangible development that is either happening right now or is so close to happening that the distance between now and then is genuinely negligible. And this development, it addresses something you had quietly, privately, almost unconsciously begun to mourn. That's the word that keeps coming up for me, mourn, because you hadn't made a formal decision to give up. You hadn't had a conversation with yourself where you said, this is over, I'm letting go. It was more gradual than that, more like the way a photograph fades slowly, imperceptibly, until one day you look at it and realize the colors have gone and you can't quite remember when it happened. Something was fading, and what's coming is the equivalent of someone handing you that photograph and the colors being completely impossibly restored. Wait, no, I need to go back to something because I think I almost missed what's most important here. I was moving toward the what, toward describing the event, the development, the thing that's coming. But something is asking me to stay longer with the why. With what makes this particular moment land as intensely as the title of this reading suggests it will. And I think it's the timing, not in the sense of good timing, in the sense of unexpected timing. This is arriving at a point in your journey where you had genuinely adjusted, where you had done the mature, healthy, rational thing of reorganizing your expectations around what seemed available. You had, without making a production of it, without drama or bitterness, simply recalibrated. The version of you who is about to receive this is not the version who was actively hoping for it. It is the version who had learned to be okay without it. And there is something about receiving something you needed when you've already made your peace with not receiving it. That is its own category of overwhelming. You don't have the defenses up anymore. You're not braced for impact. The news arrives into an open space rather than into a place of active anticipation. And open spaces receive things differently than armored ones do. That's why you might cry. Not because you're weak, not because you're overwhelmed, because something real reached somewhere in you that had been carefully closed off. And the reaching itself, the fact of being reached after the closing, is a lot. Let me look at who or what is at the center of this. There's a person in this reading. I want to be careful about how I describe them because I don't want to project a whole character onto someone I'm only catching impressions of. But what I'm getting is consistent enough that I feel I can say it. This person has been doing something quietly, working towards something that involves you, moving in a direction that has you at its destination. Not impulsively. This has taken time. This has required something of them. This is the product of a process that they have been in for longer than you knew. And the reason you didn't know is not because they were hiding it from you in a deceptive way. It's because they wanted to be certain before they brought it to you. They wanted to arrive with something real rather than with intention alone. They are arriving with something real, and the quality of what they're bringing has the particular weight of something that has been prepared, that has been carried carefully. That represents a decision made with full awareness of what it means and what it asks of them. This isn't impulsive. This is someone who has thought about you specifically, consistently, in the particular way that means you occupy actual real estate in their daily interior life, and decided that whatever it costs, whatever is required, they are not going to let more time pass without saying or doing or offering what they've been holding. Something held is about to be released. And when it reaches you, you're going to feel the weight of how long it was held. All of it at once. I want to stay with the happiness part of this for a moment because this reading is asking me to, and I don't want to rush past it into complexity when something genuinely joyful is present. Joy is strange for Virgo, I've noticed. Not because you're incapable of it, you feel things with an intensity that would probably startle the people who have only seen your composed surface, but because there's something in you that doesn't quite trust it when it arrives, that looks for the catch. That holds the good things slightly away from your body while you inspect it for what might be wrong with it. This time I want to ask you to not do that. Not permanently. I'm not asking you to abandon your discernment. That would be like asking you to abandon your own mind, just for the first moment, for the initial impact of what's coming. Let it land in you before you start measuring it. Let yourself feel the happiness before you assess whether you're allowed to feel it, before you check it for flaws, before you begin the very Virgo process of trying to understand it completely before you can let yourself experience it. The experience is available to you fully, without conditions, without catching first. Let it come. Something else is surfacing here that I want to name because it's been sitting at the edge of this reading since I started, and I keep half addressing it and then moving on. And I don't think that's honest. There's a moment of recognition coming, not just a nice thing happening, a recognition, someone or something seeing you specifically, you, the real version, the unmanaged interior version that not everyone gets access to, and responding to that with something that confirms it was worth showing up as yourself. That the particular, complicated, precise, sometimes exhausting way you are in the world is not something to be corrected, but something to be met. That word keeps arriving. Met. And that's the thing underneath the happiness. That's why this lands so hard when it comes. Because Virgo spends a significant portion of its relational life being useful, being competent, being the one who holds things together and notices what others miss and fixes what others leave broken, all of which is real and all of which has value, but none of which is the same as being met. None of which is the same as someone showing up, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. What's coming is someone showing up because of what you are. That's the surprise. That's the tears. Let me look at the period around this. The before and the after. Because nothing that moves this significantly arrives in isolation. There's a context to it, a before that has been leading here, and I think when you look back from the other side of this moment, you're going to understand the last several weeks or months in a completely different light. Things that seemed like delays or disappointments or just the neutral passing of time are going to reveal themselves as having been the specific sequence of events that made this possible. That put you here in this openness at this particular moment when the door finally opens. That's not a comforting narrative I'm adding on to things. That's what I'm actually reading. The path here was the path here. It didn't make sense in real time. It will make sense looking back, and what follows this moment, the after, has a quality I want to describe carefully because I don't want to overpromise and I also don't want to understate it. What follows is not simple. I'll say that clearly. Simple is not what Virgo is built for, and the connections and developments that actually last in your life are never the ones that resolve into perfect smoothness. What follows is real, which means it's complex, which means it asks things of you, which means it grows and changes and requires your actual presence rather than a managed version of it. But underneath the complexity, holding it, giving it a structure it can grow on, is something solid, something that was always supposed to be there, just arriving now. I almost stopped there, but something is asking me to say one more thing, and I've learned not to skip the things that arrive at the end when I think a reading is finished. Those are often the most important ones. You have been good at surviving, exceptional at it, actually. You've developed a set of quiet competencies around continuing, around maintaining, around functioning, around being fine, in all the ways that fine is visible from the outside, that have served you well and that have also cost you something. A certain kind of softness, a certain quality of openness that gets weathered over time when you've had to be resilient more often than you've been able to simply receive. What's coming doesn't just bring you something good. It brings you back something, a quality of yourself, a warmth, a softness, a capacity to simply be in something without managing it that you had once, and that the process of surviving has slowly, quietly, without anyone's intention or fault worn down. That's the deepest surprise inside this reading. Not just the external event, the internal one. What happens to you when the external event arrives? The unlocking of something in your own chest that you'd almost forgotten was in there. That's where the tears come from. That's what I hope you'll let happen when the moment arrives. Don't hold them back. They're not weakness. They're you remembering something about yourself that you'd stopped letting yourself know. I want to hear from you. Specifically, if you know in your body right now what this reading is pointing at. If there's something in your life that you've been quietly mourning, the way I described, letting it fade without making a production of the fading, will you tell me in the comments? You don't have to name it. Just tell me you know. Just tell me you felt this one. I want to know how many of you this reading reached today, because something in the energy of it tells me it's going to reach people who really, really needed it. And if you cried even a little, don't be embarrassed about that either. Some things deserve that response. This might be one of them.